Today I'm delighted to welcome Nicola Blakemore to the podcast. Nicola is a very creative lady. She's very much into the sort of painting and teaching painting, something which I have to admit I know nothing about. And we've already established that I'm Mr. Spreadsheet Jockey and she runs away from them. So we're coming at this from diametrically opposite areas of the creativity spectrum. That is to say, Nicola's very creative and I'm not. So Nicola, a warm welcome to the podcast. Perhaps you start by just introducing yourself and perhaps explaining a little better exactly what it is you do and who you are.
Thank you very much, John. It's lovely to be invited to join in with you. Yes, I'm Nicola Blakemore. You can probably tell that I'm English, but I moved 10 years ago to the south of France because I thought it would be something I'd like to do. Anyway, I'm a creative. I teach people how to do all sorts of creative things, in particular how to work with watercolour paints. And I decided when I was here to set up some painting holidays, which were going very nicely. But I then realised that not everybody can make it to the south of France to learn how to paint. So that's when, this is about 5 years ago now, I started to appreciate that there was a big world out there and a big demand on the digital network, using the World Wide Web. And I've since got into that, and I am absolutely delighted that I did find it. And it's made a very big difference to me. And I have met some wonderful people. I have some lovely students and reviews, and it's going well. And I do approach it probably very differently to what you do, John.
Which is going to be a very, very exciting to explore. What we're going to be discussing is basically digital business following my business strategy framework. So I'm automatically putting Nicola into a series of boxes, which I'm sure she's going to struggle to get out of. But if we follow the framework, then everybody will have a sort of common term of reference. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is about customer focus. And the first of the three elements there is really just getting an overview of how you've put together your online digital business. What are the components that make it so successful?
Well, I think really I've drawn on my experience to create what I have created online. And that is that a lot of people have a block about painting. They think they can't do it. I could probably get you painting, John.
You probably could, actually, yes.
No, because somewhere along the line, and this is a really big thing, they have a limited belief. Because somewhere along the line, somebody has said, oh, you're not very good, or that's not very nice, or their brother or their sister was better than them. And this is what has created this limited belief. And I think it's something that's so mysterious, so magical, and you've got to have real talent that they often don't even try. So that was where I started from. I developed my first course, which is my bestseller course on the Udemy platform, which is the beginning, actually how to get the paint from the pot, from the box onto the paper, and getting people over this nervousness, this hesitancy that they can't do it. So that's where was my starting point. And I've learned that from the people I've had coming on my lessons and on my holidays.
So you created some Udemy courses.
Yes.
And what else have you got around that to either promote them? Have you got an email list? Are you on social media platforms that help to drive traffic to that, or do you, as I have done for a long time, largely rely on Udemy to do all the heavy lifting?
Yes, actually lots of things. Yes, let Udemy, because one of the problems, I started first off with a site called Rizuku, because I found another art teacher who was using this site. So I thought, oh, okay, this is the way to go. But they didn't do any marketing. And this, as we all know, is the really hard bit. So when I discovered Udemy and they do the marketing, I thought that's great. So that started me off, and it gradually built and built. And then I started to realise that if I got my YouTube channel going, and that is a biggie for me, YouTube channel. That feeds my courses. And then I use Facebook. I have a group on there specifically for my community, and that feeds as well. And of course, I use MailChimp for my mailing list and other sites. So it is it sort of all feeds itself, really.
And your main products are sitting on Udemy. You're not on Teachable or Thinkific or any other platforms.
I am on Teachable, which is building slowly, but it's a tricky one. I have some tuition on Skillshare, which is, that's okay. That brings in a few students, but that's very limiting because your lectures, your classes have to be under a certain time limit. And that doesn't always work for me. But YouTube is very good, very good.
Interesting. So if we go on to the question of growth, having set out the sort of the landscape of your digital footprint, what's really, you've mentioned YouTube's working for you well. I mean, can you point to one or two things that act as effective growth levers for really expanding your business? I know Udemy do a lot of work for you, and for me indeed. But what growth advice or what's working well for you?
YouTube and my Facebook group.
Okay, so how do you use YouTube? Are you publishing regularly? Do you have a weekly piece, or do you just put up when you feel like it and then let it grow?
It was a bit like that to start with, but then I did a bit more research and learned a bit more about it. And I discovered that if you do something on a regular basis, people then get used to seeing you and knowing you'll do something. And I put in concerted effort and I built up my channel quite quickly. And of course, when you get to a certain level, it then just starts to keep going itself, and YouTube notice you, and then they give you a bit more support. I mean, I've just now got over 10,000 students, which I'm delighted about. And I've noticed in just, 10 days, 8 days, I've nearly gained another 200.
Brilliant. And so what are you doing? Are you publishing something every day, every week? I mean, what's the frequency?
It does vary a little bit, but I've got different strands on my YouTube now. I have tuition, but I also started doing interviews with art-related people and subjects. So that's something else because, and also I do occasionally a talking head just about a subject about painting, and I just go, so. And also I've been doing quite a bit of traveling, and if it has an artistic link, then I'll put those up as well. So it gives my students, my subscribers rather, not just the tuition, but other things that may be artistically of interest to them.
Got you. And what are you doing with your Facebook group?
My Facebook group, I put the opportunity out there. If they're doing any of my online courses, they can join the Facebook group. And that's what happens. And then that, again, feeds them back to other courses. I put my YouTube up there and say, look, if you haven't haven't subscribed yet, then subscribe. So everything sort of, it's a bit like a jigsaw. It all sort of connects up. I don't have a funnel as such, a nice straight avenue. I just have all these elements which feed each other.
All interconnected.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And I'm actually looking at, I have a small subscription section, but I'm now thinking of extending that to get a bigger subscription site.
Is that on, subscription? Is that a subscription on YouTube or a subscription on Facebook, or is that somewhere else?
It's actually on my Teachable site.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah,
I created something called Nicola Studio, which people could subscribe to. And then I would offer them something in particular, like a painting challenge every month or a video chat every month and techniques of the month, that sort of thing. So they're getting a little bit more than they would normally get in the Facebook group.
Very interesting. What do you charge for that?
$10.
$10.
$10.
Very interesting.
It's, I've joined things and I don't miss $10 a month.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really clever model. The subscription model is one, I think, which is really important and very underused. So that's really smart.
And I'm actually, I'll let you into a little something that I'm actually thinking of creating a subscription site that will then take people from Facebook, because not a lot of people want to do Facebook.
Right.
Some people don't want, yes, a lot of people don't want to do Facebook, I mean. So I'm missing out on some potential students and customers. So I may well be changing things slightly to a subscription site on an independent community network, and that would be the price of a cup of coffee, even less.
Yeah. You make it very easy for them to come in.
Make it easy, yeah.
Let's talk about your customers, and I talk about customer centricity, and by that I mean really spending your time focusing on your customers and keeping them at the center of your business, so that everything you do is about creating things for them. And I think if you have that approach, then ultimately you build a business which has sustainability, and you end up with great customers who are really happy with you, as opposed to continually trying to sell things. So do you have an ideal customer in your mind, and what are is there anything you do to try to keep them at the forefront of everything you do?
Oh yeah, that bit's quite easy, really. Respond. I answer every question within 24 hours on my courses, and reviews as well. And if somebody says there's something they don't understand, I have previously created another video to explain it in a different way. So yes, I do respond by saying, somebody suggested they'd like to learn more about how to paint whatever it is. So here it is. I'm giving it to you because that's what you want. So you've got to listen. I think you've got to listen. And, people are buying me at the end of the day. There are loads of other painting teachers out there. But, hello, doggy.
Oh, it's Henry's come to join the party. He's having a drink.
Hello,
yes.
Henry. There are zillions out there. But my students now, they like the way I do things. So that's what you do. Keep doing what you're doing, what they like. But yeah, listen and respond to what they need.
I think that's brilliant advice. Let's go on to the second section, which is all about customer experience. And the first part of that is around product creation. Now, you've talked about your Udemy courses. Is that the sum? And you've got Udemy courses. You've got your subscription. You're looking at maybe building a little membership site as well. Could you perhaps describe, without going into numbers, which part of your product portfolio is the most effective, and what advice would you give to people starting out about creating online products based on your experience of it?
Well, I don't do numbers. You're quite right, John. I couldn't even present you with numbers. Rabbit in the headlight with numbers. Sorry, what do I...
Which products are doing best for you? So what's working best, broadly speaking,
Which avenue is doing best?
Exactly.
Okay, I would say it's the YouTube and the Udemy. But we're also, if you look at products, for example, on the Udemy side, let's keep it simple. I've got up there a selection of paintings that I have done that people can copy. I take them through the stages, do this, and they end up with the picture. But I have learned, again, it's by listening and seeing what people say, that what is really going well for me now is to take a subject and look at it in detail. I've got one up which is about painting trees, and that's become a real top course. And I've just put a new one up which is about skies. So it's picking out, for me, I'm learning, it's picking out an isolated subject that people find appealing, because everybody who paints is going to have to tackle trees at some point, or skies, or whatever it is. So that's another way. It is listening to your customers and seeing what their needs are.
So it comes back to really solving problems, which is something.
Problem solving.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm hoping I'm making their painting life more enjoyable and less stressful.
Yeah. Let's talk about branding. What emphasis do you put on creating? I mean, we're obviously your students are buying into you, but do you have a brand around you that you use or are you keeping it very personal?
Well, sort of. I mean, I've sort of realised that painting with Nicola is the thing, because you're watching me paint, you're painting with me. So I've started to build on that. And if I do this separate subscription site, that's what it will be called, Painting with Nicola. And a lot of things, it's starting to key into that. So that's probably I do have a little logo, but I've fallen out with it. So I might decide I don't like it anymore. So I might do another one. And, it's going to be something to do with painting with Nicola, because that's what it's about.
Got it. Yeah, keep it very simple, and you know exactly what's on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always for that, John. Don't give me another app. If I've got something that's working for me, I'll just stick with it.
Can I talk to you about content creation then, and really in the sort of broadest sense? If you look at your typical week, I'm not expecting you to tell me that you do this on Monday and that on Tuesday and that on Wednesday, but what sort of content do you enjoy creating, and how do you go about, how spontaneous is it, or how planned is it, or where do you put the emphasis on all the things you do in terms of digital content creation?
Well, I'm customer led by the content. Okay, that's the first thing. And then it's a question of getting it in my head. And I often say to people, start with the end in mind and work backwards. You've got to have a vision of what the end thing is going to be. So if I'm thinking, okay, like with the Skies course, I started to think, okay, how do we tackle this? We have, skies at various times of the day. So a lot of it is the actual filming of whatever it is I'm doing. And then, of course, it's processing the videos and the editing and all the rest of it. That takes quite a considerable time, as you probably know, to get those up. And then when I've got all my content, then I put it together and build the course set afterwards. So I start with the end of it, and then start the other bits, the beginnings.
Is most of the things you're creating then all centered around video? I mean, are you writing very much? Are you publishing photographs or images or? Well,
because of what I do, it's all visual, obviously, and video is the way, as we all know. This is why if I'm going to do YouTube, it's got to be a video. But I do various texts. Things are, my video lectures are supported by various photographs and PDFs and things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that sort of thing. It's just trying to get a flavour for the balance of the content that you're creating. And have you tried live streaming on Facebook or on YouTube?
No, not yet. The nearest I've got to it is doing my monthly video chat with my subscribers. But no, I haven't done that yet. That's going to be my next leap into the unknown.
Okay. The next area I'd like to just explore with you is around the channels, the digital channels that are available. And the first part of this really is under the heading of content marketing. Now, picking up on something you've already said, which is how well YouTube is going for you, can we dive a little bit deeper into YouTube and perhaps explore how you've managed to grow your YouTube channel so quickly, so successfully? What approach did you take to that?
Well, it's taken me 5 years. It's all relative, isn't it? So I don't know how that compares to anybody else. But I just started putting the odd video up just to see what happened. And then, of course, when somebody comments and it's nice, it spurs you on then to do a few more. So then I started to put some up regularly. I went through a phase of regularly doing it. And when I got to the first 1,000, YouTube noticed me, and I started to get more leverage, I suppose you might call it. I don't know. And started to add more videos and also link them back to my courses. Now, just this is a very interesting thing for me, because I'd always put up in the description box all the details about how to find me and all the rest of it. But it's only just now that I am actually getting students enrolling as a result of the YouTube videos. So you have to build up this level of trust, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is. They've seen me long enough, often enough to know that, yeah, I can trust this woman. And if this looks like a good course, then it probably is a good course. So it is a question of it is building your trust with your customers. And I think most people would accept that as a truth.
No, absolutely. No, it's very important.
Does that make sense?
It does. They say you need to have 6 to 7 points of contact with somebody before they'll be ready to buy from you. And that's
really?
And that's taking you through the find me, know me, like me, trust me, pay me paradigm. Yeah.
Well, this is all very much, and in fact, I've got the ladies I've got on my painting holiday this week. As I told you earlier when we were chatting, I've got one who has come from Australia, specifically on the strength of my YouTube presentation. And the other lady who's from England, she says, the thing I like about your videos, Nicola, is if things go wrong, you just say, oh, well, never mind, we'll sort it out,
So it's very real.
Yeah, I am, because that's how I am. Everything is a bit homemade. I am not edited squeaky clean within an inch of my life. But it's also very good for my students because they see how to fix things. I'm not presenting the perfect manicured picture. Things happen.
Yeah. I hesitate to raise the next topic because I think the idea of marketing strategy is almost too formalized to really for your approach. But if I was to ask you to sort of sit back and say, we've talked about your YouTube as a very effective marketing channel for you. You've got this interconnected ecosystem of different platforms where you seem to share your time very effectively because they're growing. What advice would you give to somebody who's relatively new then and wanted to think, well, how can I grow my marketing from a sort of a very low starting point?
Well, if they're like me, they make it up as they go along. It depends what they're doing. There isn't. I would say, okay, you're going to start doing this. What do you want at the end of it? Well, what's your motivation for doing it? One thing, you've got to be sure about being authentic. You've got to be yourself. You've got to be true. So you've got to have that going, and then think, well, what do I want out of this? What do I want? Because it's no get rich quick. Well, it might be for some people, but I do it for the personal satisfaction, and it gives me an interest and it gives me an income. So I think people have got to look at their motives, certainly, and look at what it is they're sending out there, because everybody's approach is going to be different.
Yeah.
So I don't have a strategy, as you knew I wouldn't.
No, I'm not surprised here, but you're being very effective nonetheless. Let's talk about the specific channels then. So we've talked about YouTube, we've talked about Facebook. You've got your Udemy is also a channel because it's a marketplace, so it's a way to get to customers. Thinkific or Teachable would just be a platform; they wouldn't be a channel to customers. I mean, have you tried any other channels? Things like, Pinterest, Instagram, any of these, and how have you found those? Yeah,
I do those when I remember. I've got a Pinterest site, I've got an Instagram site, which I'm just getting into. What else do I do? Twitter, when I remember. No, usually Twitter and Facebook are easy because they're in the same little box, so I can press them at the same time, and Pinterest as well. So, it's got to be easy for me, John. It's got to be sorted. One day I will get organised, honestly, and use everything 15 minutes and it's done. I keep getting it in the neck from my American friend to get on LinkedIn and get that sorted out, but I haven't. So I use the main social media like everybody else, yes.
See, I would come back to say, who are the people who want to learn painting? And I'm not sure they are going to be on LinkedIn. I think I think I think Pinterest would be a very good one for you, because I think there's a lot of very creative people, and it's a very visual platform.
Yes.
I think Twitter is probably a questionable one. Again, although it has a lot of imagery and video, it's so transitory and conversational that I don't think it's a very effective way. And if people want to ask you questions, they can question you in your courses, or they can come into your Facebook group and talk to you there very easily.
Exactly.
So I think that's quite interesting. But I think Instagram, because it also ties in with Facebook, I think is a natural one. And I've just been upping my Instagram game. And actually what I do is I now this will be the diametric opposite approach to you, as you expect. I produce a batch of Instagram posts at the beginning of the month, and then schedule them out for the every day for the month at approximately the same time.
You're so organised.
And I then just get, I can look on my phone now. I've just got a string of, if I put the phone up there, I've just got a string of people saying, these are Instagram responses to my latest post. So that it does work. Let's talk about traffic, which is the final element of the channel. You're creating very effectively a lot of organic traffic, which is great. Clearly, Udemy is driving paid traffic. Are you doing any paid ads or anything like that, or can you comment on again your YouTube strategy? We keep on coming back to YouTube because you're making that work really effectively. I'm at 900 and something subscribers, and you're at 10,000, and I've been on YouTube for longer than you have. So what other ideas have you got around helping people to find you, which is really what it's about?
Okay. I also have my own website as well, for my Painting Holidays website. So that again is another thing that links in. I do monetize my YouTube channel. Now, some people are against that. And I say, well, for goodness sake, get over yourself. Because YouTube like that. So they will give me, I'm getting quality ads on my videos, and they don't last long. So I do that. I just keep plugging away at what I know how to do.
Which is probably a very, very good way to do it. So you're not using paid ads or anything like that to drive things. It's all organic.
No. Yeah. Good Lord, no.
Okay. All right.
Free.
Let's move on to customer engagement. And the first area there is about lead generation. Now, my thinking here is that you need to get people to come and know, like, and find you, and you're doing that very effectively with your YouTube channel, with your Facebook group. Can you think of any other ways you've dreamt up of enticing people to either opt into your list or to buy your courses? And do you make them opt? Do you tend to find that people opt into your list first and buy later, or are people going directly to your courses?
Well, I do have on my website to subscribe to my newsletter opt-in. So I do have that. Since GDPR or whatever it's called, my list has diminished somewhat. But hey-ho, never mind, it'll sort itself out. But no, I think really it is on the Facebook groups. I mean, as well as having my own Facebook group, I do post on other painting groups within Facebook. So sometimes they'll transfer over, they'll pick up my course from that. So that's another way of pulling traffic in. And really, it is YouTube that's really working for me now, really is.
And do you mentioned your newsletter. Do you send out a weekly or a monthly news? I mean, how regular is that?
Oh, no, I'd say it's probably every 3 months. It's sort of a quarterly sort of thing, because I've only got so much to tell people at the end of the day, and you don't want to be buy this. I've got a new course. Buy this. So you've got to give them something else to have. It's like when I go on my travels, I make little videos, especially if they've got an art related aspect. So that can go on there, and that will take them to YouTube then. So, it's just sort of like, look, I thought this might be of interest to you, about products as well, things like that I've discovered.
And you just film that with your sort of telephone, do you?
Well, you'll be very proud of me. I mean, it's only this year, I hate to admit this, but it's only this year that I've got a smartphone. And it's a big learning curve. I tell you, I've had to do a course on it.
Of course you have. So when you're on your travels, are you using your smartphone to create the videos now?
Yes, I do. And it's so easy because I recently did a course. You probably like this one. It's a bit wacky though, about painting, urban sketching. That's it. Sketching when you're out and about. And to make the point, I was in Paris at the time, cat sitting actually, one of my new hobbies. So I got a nice cheap holiday in Paris, and I was sitting on the metro with my phone filming and talking into it.
Yeah.
So, that new tool for me is brilliant to get those sort of videos out, because what I wanted to get across to my students was the students are anxious about sketching in public. I said, look, nobody's paying me any attention. They're all looking at their phones.
Yes, everybody just about does walk around looking at their phones and ignores everybody else. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a great example for those doing this sketching out and about.
Right. I'm going to move on and then pass by funnels, because you've already said you don't worry about funnels, which is great. So when you're using your email list to a minimal extent, by the sound of it,
yes,
because you're
yes.
relying on your continual contact and your continual responsiveness to your students.
Yes.
And almost, which is very refreshing. I mean, there's no set way of doing this. But people who are selling funnel courses will be saying, "Oh, no, you've got to set up these complex funnels." And the rest of it. So we'll move on from funnels, and we may not spend much time on email campaigns either, because everybody says that the money is in the list, but actually, how big is your email list? How many people have you got on MailChimp?
Oh, I think after the GDPR thing, I've got about 115 now.
Okay, so
it's building up. Yeah. But what's happening now is that they are, when I invite my students to join the Facebook group, they have 3 questions to answer. How they found out about me, are they interested in painting holidays, and would they like to give me their email address to get a regular newsletter. So they've got the choice to opt in. So that is building my list back up again.
And if they do put their email address in there, do you have to manually take it off and import it into MailChimp, or do you have them connected?
No, I copy and paste, John.
Yes, I thought you might. I asked the question because that's the only way I know how to do it. And I was hoping you'd have a better idea.
No, it doesn't take long, And of course, what I also do when they've given me their email address, I send them a thank you very much little letter and do. So it's 2 jobs done at the same time.
So you respond. So
that's refreshing, John, that you don't know.
There's plenty I don't know, I can assure you. So one of the reasons I'm doing these interviews is to basically, allow you to tell me better ways of doing it. Yes, teach me. So the last element of this is social community engagement, and actually I've been really impressed by the engagement you've got ongoing. To sum as my understanding of it, at the core you've got your Udemy courses, and then but you do have them also. Did you say on Teachable?
Teachable, yeah.
But then around that you've got YouTube going on very actively. You've got your Facebook group going on very actively, and people are sort of bouncing around this little ecosystem. And the more, I guess, the more they come across you, the more they want to consume more from you. So that's really, really, really great. And there's not. I mean, we've touched on Twitter, we've touched on Instagram, Pinterest, those sorts of things. Just trying to think of anything. Can you think of any other social things you're doing that are really being effective? Or what advice would you give to somebody if they didn't quite know where to start?
Well, they've got to think what they're comfortable with using. If they're a spreadsheet person, then they need to talk to you. But they're a bit more touchy-feely, like me. Then then you've got to use what works for you. Don't listen to, it's like you were saying, some people, their forte is a certain thing. Like a friend of mine, her thing is LinkedIn, and I say, yeah, well, okay, but it doesn't really work for me. Don't be blinded by all the things that are new and bright and shiny. Look at the basic things, and I think some of the things that have been around the longest are really, probably the best. And the way forward does seem to be, everybody keeps saying it's video. So yeah, I can't think of anything. I should probably think of something later when you've gone.
No, but I think what you're doing very smartly is you found out which channels work most effectively for you, and you seem to be focusing most of your energies on those and not being distracted too much by the others.
Absolutely, and I don't need it.
Yeah. Get good at a few things and go deep on those and not really get distracted by too many. And I agree with your focus on video. I think that's really important. One of the reasons I wanted to do this as a video interview, because I wanted to capture the video value, for people who want to watch this as opposed to just listen to it.
Well, indeed. And this is going to be very interesting to my students as well. So I will post this video on my channel.
Brilliant.
And you will get some more exposure, John.
I'm going to get 10 times more exposure than you will on my YouTube channel, that's for sure. But that's very good news. I'm going to come on now to digital skills. And there are 3 areas here.
What are those?
Well, indeed. Well, but I think you're going to surprise us, because I think you've got a lot of digital skills. You probably just haven't thought about it. And I've got these broken down into sort of 3 areas. And they're I'm not talking about the technical abilities of dealing with a piece of software or a camera or making a video. The first of these is copywriting.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The second is search engine optimization. And the third is really analytics.
Right.
So to start with, which I can see is going to be a short conversation, but copywriting, is that something you've ever given any thought to in terms of maybe how you do your YouTube descriptions or things when you're writing in your blog, on your website?
I used to work in newspapers. Yeah. At one point, I was actually selling advertising. So you've got to write selling copy. And then I went over more onto the editorial side, where I was writing again in copy, but it was coming at it from a different angle. So I've got that background to fall back on. So yes, it is helpful to have that, you've got to grab your audience straight away, get them, right from the beginning. So that has been helpful to me, yes. And I do enjoy a bit of, occasionally I write the odd press release for people and stuff like that.
I mean, could you give advice to people who are completely new to this? I mean, what things do they need to think about? You've mentioned grab your audience. Well,
yeah, I've got to keep it simple, really. I mean, what's the message they want to get over? Who are they addressing and how are they going to do it? I also have a blog on my website, which I do fairly regularly, and that can be, it's very time consuming, but it can be very enjoyable. But the thing is to just get your message across as briefly as possible, and don't use complicated jargon. Use everyday words.
Yes. Why what is it? I can't even say the word. No, I can't even say it. So no point in trying to use long words and not being able to come up with them.
And not being able to pronounce them either, John.
Moving quickly on then.
Moving quickly on.
Search engine optimization is the next area, really. And again, it doesn't sound like you're doing very much wrong, because YouTube is driving traffic to you and you're building your subscribers very nicely. Let's talk about what you do when you post a YouTube video, perhaps, because I think that would highlight some of the issues. I mean, how do you go about it? And is there anything there particularly you do to make it easier for YouTube to know what you're about?
When you're posting a video, you have your tags to put in. That's a very important area to get the right tags in. So, I always put my name in. I always put Painting with Nicola. I always put all the keywords that I know are going to be appropriate to that video. And then I also have certain playlists, which I put in there. So, I put in the right playlist. Usually things are in each all the playlists. Got me at it now. So yeah, it's just, YouTube is doing the SEO stuff for me. I just have to put the right keywords in to pick up.
Right. And are you consciously thinking about SEO with anything else you're doing, or are you sort of just letting it take its course and focusing on the content?
Letting it take its course. Know what you're good at and stick to it.
Yeah, I get that. So we'll go on then to data analytics, which I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I believe in you now.
But one of the things I will touch on. You did pick up on the fact that your subscribers are growing, and that is a very important measurement in YouTube. And is that? I seem to remember wasn't there a point where YouTube changed the rules and they wanted you to have 1,000 subscribers, and didn't you was it you who asked for people to subscribe to your channel because you wanted to tip over 1,000? Maybe it wasn't you.
I don't know. No. I don't think so. No.
Somebody else.
Obviously I've promoted my YouTube channel within Facebook and all the groups that I'm in. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that should do some more of that as well. But, what can you talk about the growth of your subscribers then? How has that gone? Because you say it's accelerating, which is something I hadn't really thought about.
Well, it's just, it feeds on itself. The more people who discover me, the more they spread the word. One of the ladies who's painting with me this week comes from in England, and she said, "Nicola, would you come and do a painting holiday in England?" I said, "You get the people, darling, I'll come." Things like that. But it is the fact that I do everything that's sort of linked together, the YouTube, the Facebook, my blogs and everything, that gradually all these strands, they all start pulling in, and it just comes to me, it's what I do and how I do it that people like.
Yeah.
As simple as that, really.
So work out what's working and do more of it.
Yeah, is that what you asked?
Yeah, well, it was trying to understand how you felt your YouTube was growing, and in a sense, you have answered that, because it's very organic, but it's almost like, I keep on going back to the snowball rolling down the hill metaphor.
Yes.
Yeah. It gathers more snow.
Touching on analytics just a teensy bit.
Oh, please.
Teensy weensy bit. Actually, on the Udemy platform, we've now got this analytics thing that they've set up more. It's getting more and more, and I am fascinated. It's always interested me anyway to see. And well, it doesn't surprise me, but most of my students are for America. Okay, I expect that, it's an American platform, But then I've got people from Egypt. Where's that come from? Australia. Poland, a lot of people from Poland, and the UK is down there somewhere.
Interesting.
Which surprises me, because I'm an English person, so you think that would get more. But it's very interesting when you look at the map that they give you now with dots all over the place, where your students are. It's quite nice to see that.
Yeah. And how many countries have you got?
About 126, I think.
Okay, yeah. Because that's.
Well, how many have you got then?
181.
No.
Yes, I know. It becomes a blame game in the end, doesn't it?
We'll be texting. Okay, I'll just reach so and so.
Yeah. Let's go on to the final section, which is in the framework, which is all around tools and resources. And the simple question I've got for you is, is there a tool or a resource, a piece of software or something you're using that you're finding particularly effective and you'd like to share with somebody? So, for example, I use Hootsuite for scheduling, posts on Instagram. So, do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Yes, I certainly do. I'm not up to that sort of scheduling, as you probably appreciate. But for my video side, I use Filmora, which I find absolutely delightful. I find it a joy to work with. And once I got the hang of it, it's really easy. I started off with Movie Maker because that was what was available. It was easy to use, but then I found it far too limiting and it wasn't working well. it's got a bit clunky, as it were. So I went on to Filmora, got the hang of that, and actually bought the package because I do a lot of videos, and it's really, really super.
And do you make all your course videos in that as well?
Yes, I do. I edit all my videos in that, and it's great. And I've created quite a good system. That's the other thing people need to remember. They've got to be able to find this stuff once they've done it. You need to have a good filing system, and that's where I am quite organised, John. Of where your videos and your audio and everything else is. Yeah.
The Filmora, that's very interesting, because the usual answer to the video question is ScreenFlow or Camtasia. So it's really refreshing to get a third option which people can look at, because the ScreenFlow and Camtasia can be quite technical, or maybe they just don't suit other people. I don't know.
Well, it could be that, and it might depend what you're doing, what your subject is, and also cost might be a consideration.
Yes, absolutely. So the last sort of formal question before I'm going to ask you to tell us where people can find you is really, if you were starting out today with a blank canvas, what would you do first? What would you make your first priority?
That's a bit of a difficult question, really.
I hadn't thought about it like that. I thought something would jump to mind straight away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. I'm quite happy with I suppose I would have planned a bit better. Oh, no, there is one thing. Hang on, I did write it down somewhere. Be mindful of what you're giving away. I remember when I first started my first course, I was telling them everything. Oh, you can do this and you do that. And then suddenly realised, hang on a minute, you're shooting yourself in the foot here. Break things down into manageable chunks, and then you get more bites of the cherry, as it were. That you can send out, you can do more courses, create more courses, and then it feeds on like that. So that's, probably, I think that, and just sort of basically take your time about it, and don't get distracted by the new shiny things. Pick things that are simple, that you understand and you can cope with, and stay with it until you're a master of that, and then you can think about the next step.
That's really good advice. Yeah, brilliant. Been fantastic fun, Nicola. Really interesting talking to you. Where can people find more about you? Where are you on YouTube? What's the name of your Facebook group? And what's the name of your website? As a bare minimum, whatever you want to share.
Well, my holiday website is www.painting-holidays-france.com.
Right.
That's me there. And then my YouTube channel is my name, Nicola Blakemore. You can find me there. Facebook group is Nicola Blakemore. To get into my painting group, you've got to be doing online to get the invitation to join. And that's basically it. And I've got my painting with Nicola at teachable.com as well. Maybe
you can put a little package and just send me all those links, and I'll make sure that we get them into the show notes.
Thank you.
Well, this is the first time I've run through the framework with anybody. You've been remarkably patient with me.
And you with me.
But you've also been very refreshing and original, which is also, I think, going to be very interesting to anybody who's listening to this, because I think the whole subject of trying to do stuff online can become so overwhelming, because it's changing so much and there's so much apparently to learn. But as you've proven, you can just focus on a few things that work for you and do them well, and you're storming ahead, which I think is tremendously refreshing. So thanks for being an amazing guest.
Oh, thank you so much, John. It's been lovely to chat to you as well. And yes, keep up the good work with your YouTube channel, dear.
I'll put more work into it, definitely.
Thank you, John.
Thanks so much.